Welcome to Cloud on Air, live webinars from Google Cloud. I'm Vinny Winzerkowski, and today we're going to talk about GCP for G Suite users. We're hosting these live webinars every Tuesday. Throughout the talk, you can enter questions in the platform below, and Googlers will be standing by to answer. At the end of the talk, we're going to choose some of your questions to answer during live Q&A. With that said, let's get started with the presentation. As I mentioned, my name is Vincent Winzerkowski, and I'm a cloud sales manager. I've been working for the past 7 years with helping customers or clients onboard to various cloud platforms.
Hey guys, my name is Nick Pan. I'm a cloud customer engineer that works on the Google Cloud team. I've been working with a lot of customers as well as business leaders and developers on determining the best way to host applications on Google Cloud. Super excited to be here today and talk to you about how you can use Google Cloud to empower your G Suite users.
So in terms of thematically, what we hope to do is talk a little bit about how we're engaging with customers. We're going to do a couple demos, and we're also going to talk about some case studies and some differentiators and how customers are actually using Google technology to innovate, leveraging various aspects of Google Cloud to meet you where you're at and help you innovate. It doesn't mean you have to lift and shift or move your entire infrastructure, even though that's a way of working with some of our customers, but it's leveraging things like APIs, it's leveraging some of our platform services, and in a lot of cases, it's how can we meet you where you're at and be able to provide value. So when we talk about Google Cloud Platform, one of the most important things to talk about is the scale we actually bring. And one of the things that demonstrates scale is you're already working with Google in some of the G Suite platform services we provide. And a thing to note, and those same services or the same scale is available for you to build on top of, is powering over 7 products that have over 1 billion users each. So in sense of how we're making investments in the platform, over the past 3 years, we've invested not only capital, but we have partner advancements, we have new regions standing up, and we have innovations in terms of creating commercialized versions of Google tech that has made us successful. So when we talk about it's not just spinning disk, it's whether you want to leverage us for an API to build and accrete a value to your current environment, or whether it's building that globally distributed application, we're engaging customers on a lot of different levels. So when we talk about Google Cloud as a whole, there are a lot of different ways of working with customers. We're going to talk about GCP today, but all of you on the live broadcast are very familiar with G Suite services. Some of those same capabilities in terms of building globally distributed storage systems and collaboration, those capabilities are available for you to integrate into your applications. But GCP as a whole has a very deep and broad capability or portfolio, and we're certainly engaged with customers in anything from moving entire data centers or just providing access to our APIs so they can build those into their existing applications and services. So when we take a high-level look at just the tiers of services that we're offering, many people may not be aware, but when you come to business platforms such as Apigee or Orbiterra, or leveraging some of our APIs, what we've been leaning into or making sure that we make available is the ability for customers not to have to move any of their infrastructure. How can we create an environment that's going to provide value? Apigee, managing or monetizing your API business. Orbiterra, providing some SaaS platform offerings to you. Leveraging our APIs to actually integrate into your existing applications. The other thing we have been seeing in the marketplace or with our customers is customers want a variety of offerings, anything from analytics and machine learning, which is certainly an area that can stand alone. But they also want to build and deploy applications and not have to worry about that undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing infrastructure. So things like App Engine and Compute and Container Engine, areas where you can deploy and build applications on a global scale without having to manage the base storage and VMs. With that said, we're also going to talk about some of the core infrastructure, storage, and networking components that certainly are interesting and we believe provide some differentiators. Again, building global infrastructure or the business value. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have Nick talk about security, networking, and infrastructure, and talk a little bit about some of the core differentiators that we have on our on our base platform.
Hey, Vinny, thanks so much for that overview. Let's dig a little bit deeper into things that surround security, networking, and infrastructure on Google Cloud. And we'll hopefully uncover some of the secret sauce that really makes Google Cloud a very novel platform to host your infrastructure on. We believe that we have an excellence in reliability. We have unparalleled speed and scalability in 2018 for a total of 15 regions globally, and we have 4 more that are being announced in 2018. Across the board, we believe that we have state-of-the-art infrastructure and unparalleled performance, and we'll allude to this in the further slides on this presentation. So digging deep into what we often tell customers. In the industry, we often hear users saying that they want to lift and shift to the cloud. But at Google, we actually use the term lift and improve. The reason why I want to say lift and improve is because as you start using these cloud-native technologies, as you start embracing some of these higher-level services and APIs, you're actually able to improve your overall business model and accelerate your business and transform your IT department. We have one really awesome feature known as live migration, and that's the ability to basically move virtual machines from one underlying host to another underlying host.
So Nick, from a live migration, it seems like an interesting feature, but how operationally is that really going to change the way I'm doing business? How is that going to impact our customers to improve upon what they're doing?
Well, that's a really great question. In terms of the start of the year, I'm sure many of you in the audience have heard of the CPU vulnerabilities that occurred in January, Meltdown and Spectre. These were CPU vulnerabilities where there was a very high severity and a very business critical need to patch your CPUs and make sure that we reduce the risk of the security as much as possible. With live migration, Google Cloud was actually able to patch all of our underlying fleet without our customers actually noticing any sort of downtime or patching done to those instances. So as you start using Google Cloud technology, you inherit all these benefits and employ a very secure security posture. Also, we have a very customer-friendly pricing model. So we have features such as sustained use discounts, which are automatic discounts on your virtual machines as you use them. And generally, we see customers who are using Google Cloud Platform to save around 30% on virtual machines a month, just based off of using those automatic sustained use discounts. We also have the idea of custom machine types, which are the ability to fine-tune your configuration of your virtual machines in terms of number of CPUs, as well as gigabytes of RAM, in order to really cater your machine shapes to meet the needs of your applications.
So Nick, that's interesting. Just from a more flexible business model, what does it actually mean for a retail customer or somebody in media, and how sustained use discounts and custom machine types can impact their business operations and affect better bottom line?
So in terms of in industries, when you think about things like using cloud for burst capacity, oftentimes you're not actually committing to a particular instance type or a reservation in terms of pools of compute. With that, you're actually able to have sustained use discounts automatically applied to that burst capacity and have real-time discounts based off of those fluctuations of usage for your applications. Additionally, for customers who are looking to lift and improve, not lift and shift, we actually see them not understanding really how the cloud works yet, but they're able to benefit from sustained usage discounts because they're not having to commit to anything at that point, and they're just inheriting that sustained use discount as they ramp up. So overall, increasing agility, having a more customer-friendly business model, and ensuring that we're giving all the controls to the customer to make sure you're making the right choices in terms of price as well as performance.
So basically true cloud economics and no guesswork in how to get discounting.
Exactly. And we believe that the bread and butter of Google Cloud that makes this so powerful is our underlying global infrastructure. If you look at this slide, we could see that this is our global footprint. As I said before, 15 regions. We maintain one of the largest backbones on the internet currently. Statistics show from third parties that we probably have around 30% of the world's internet traffic pass through our backbone on any given day. And what this empowers you as a developer or you as a business leader is being able to harness this network to host your applications either closer to your users or to reduce latency, as well as the overall hops that it takes to reach your users, as well as have system-to-system traffic. So very powerful for increasing that network throughput and that network bandwidth. And we really believe Google Cloud is a place to build multi-regional, globally distributed systems on the cloud. And this really shows you where the rubber meets the road, where it actually shows you instances doing network diagnostic tests between two regions. So I went ahead and spun up a virtual machine in Oregon, as well as a virtual machine in Japan, and did a ping as well as a trace route across bidirectionally from those instances. If you could see on the bottom, there's actually only one hop that it traverses when it goes between our VMs. And the reasons for that is because we operate our network backbone, and we're able to hold onto that traffic for majority of the route and ensure that you have a secure, consistent, as well as reliable route as you pass through the internet on our backbone.
So Nick, what I'm saying is whether or not you are building an isolated application in one of our regions or building a distributed application in multiple regions, you're going to benefit from staying on our backbone from a security and a consistent performance from a network standpoint.
Exactly. Right? So we don't have to actually push traffic to a transit ISP or transit provider. We operate our backbone and are able to ensure that performance. And along with all this, we believe that we very much excel in security across the board at Google Cloud. So we employ a defense in depth, at scale, by default posture. So from the hardware level in terms of the actual infrastructure to the actual higher levels, which are things like operational and device security, we ensure that we have all those checkboxes checked, and we're making sure that you embrace that security model that we bring to the table. One of the differentiators at Google Cloud is that we ensure that data, things like pushing objects to object storage and things of that sort, are all encrypted by default. We want to make sure that your data is secure, and we want to make sure that we're setting you guys up for success when you leverage our tools as well as our products. Another thing is that we actually manufacture a lot of our hardware, and a lot of it is purpose-built for our needs, and this leads to better performance as well as reducing the chance of vendor-in-the-middle risks when you're actually procuring peripherals from other vendors.
So Nick, a couple things I see from that, because we get asked about encryption all the time. So certainly on top of Google, since everything's encrypted at default, it's not left up to the operator, so you're ensuring that all of your data is encrypted all the time. So from an operation standpoint, there's an efficiency there. But I also see from a performance standpoint, if you're taking a look at a VM, certainly encryption is overhead to infrastructure. If that's already baked into our infrastructure, the inherent value and cost associated with that is already included. So you have security, operations, and cost efficiencies. What if somebody wants to bring in their own keys and wants to manage keys on top of that encryption? What do we do then?
So we have offerings that allow customers to bring their own keys. So they're called customer managed keys. They integrate with many of our services. And we also have a key management service for if you want to have an actual managed KMS that could do things like rotate keys, set a key expiration policy, and things of that sort. And in terms of certifications for third-party audits as well as accreditations, we are checked off across the board. These are just to name a few. We have a page on our website, cloud.google.com/security, that breaks down all these accreditations as well as different white papers that really drill home what happens under the hood at Google to ensure that our platform is safe and secure.
Excellent. So certainly all of that's good information, but I think when it comes down to it, it's all about our customers and the impression that they get in working with Google and also leveraging our technology. And instead of us telling the story, it's always good to take a look at what some of the people who have decided to move onto GCP and leverage our services are saying. So Etsy is actually a good example of somebody who's going through a transformation and trying to concentrate on providing value to their customers and not have to worry about managing spinning disk or data centers. So if you take a look at what Mike Fisher, Etsy's CTO, has said about working with Google, it wasn't just about the technology. It wasn't just about the machine learning. It was also about working with Google engineers directly, as well as our professional services, as well as our engagement team. So there are a lot of factors that come into selecting the right provider. And I think if you actually take a look at what Mike has done in terms of doing product selection, there's a link that we'll provide. There's really a comprehensive look as to, it's not just about what technology is available today and capabilities, but it's also looking about how you're looking to grow in the future, both regionally as well as globally. So, a lot of people out there are listening, and certainly Etsy is a large environment, but certainly I wouldn't expect everybody ready to just drop their entire data center or move from existing cloud provider to us. What if somebody wanted to get started with a simple one VM move? How can we help them do that? Is there something we can kind of demonstrate for them?
Yeah, so I put together a demo where it basically goes through one of our tools that are baked into our platform. We built this in partnership with Cloud Endure, and it's basically a built-in VM import that allows you to move a virtual machine from either on-premises or another cloud into Google Cloud Platform completely managed. So if you see in this demo, we're walking through kind of what the overall workflow looks like. But high level, what it does is you go through installation of agents on the VM that you're trying to migrate, as well as the target VM that's within Google Cloud Platform. You select like a VM shape or a configuration for that virtual machine, and then the actual agent begins a continuous replication between that source and that target. Once replication is finished, you have that target instance that is a complete mirror of your source that's either on-premises or another cloud, and you could easily provide some testing and then do a cutover. And what this allows you to do is have a completely managed solution that allows you to move your virtual machines from another area into the cloud, and then the kicker is that it's completely free. So we cover all the costs, and it's provided to you as an added service to our Google Compute Engine service, which is our virtual machines or infrastructure as a service tool.
Great. So that's interesting because it looks like we're using a partner and a partner technology on how to actually get started. What's interesting about that is it's a tool and a service that's already built in, you know, and it's some additional value that we're actually providing. How do you get out of the screen? Yep. How do you get out? Yep. All right. So I guess the next thing that we want to talk about is some additional customer examples. So if you take a look at folks that are moving to us, we talked about Etsy. One of the things that we do want to talk about is Quant Connect, who's another great example of somebody leveraging Google Cloud Platform. They started out as a G Suite user. They actually were leveraging another cloud provider, and what they were looking for was better efficiency, better reliability, as well as some overall business value or cost savings. And if you take a look at the number of products they're using, they definitely lean in a lot using Container Engine as well as Cloud SQL. So they're really taking advantage of not only the platform services, but some of the inherent business value. The nice part about this use case is they were able to get better reliability and also drive some significant value from a business value cost savings. So reliability as well as remaining and keeping a flat cost while increasing their business by 6x. Pretty impressive. At the beginning of the presentation or the conversation, we talked about our serverless strategy. So it's not just about spinning disk. It's not just about leveraging our APIs, but certainly serverless is one of the areas where a lot of folks are leaning in and supporting you know, their cloud strategy. What's interesting about this is Google actually started out in the serverless space with our App Engine product, and Nick Rockwell, who's actually a very interesting person in the cloud industry, is actually leveraging a multi-cloud strategy, and where he's leaned into Google Cloud is in the serverless area, where he's leveraging App Engine to and other serverless capabilities to actually accelerate and not worry about managing spinning disk or object storage. He's definitely leaning into supporting the overall value of getting applications out to customers faster.
So we've covered a lot of technology and thrown a lot of terms at you folks. We know that a lot of you guys are already using G Suite or G Suite administrators, and here's a simple use case for how you could use some of these Google Cloud technologies to improve your business. Within G Suite, there's a lot of logs that are output to your G Suite administrator dashboard, as well as a lot of audit trails that you could use to draw meaningful insights for your business. You could easily take that data and move it into our data warehouse known as BigQuery and draw meaningful dashboards using a tool known as Data Studio. So you see on this slide, there's this G Suite Insights page, and you're able to easily create these nice dashboards that allow you to look at things like, how are my docs usage across my organization? How is my collaboration? How many hours of WebEx, or how many hours of GBC have we had throughout the presentation or throughout our organization? So being able to easily determine a lot of awesome insights from using these tools is what drives value to you as a customer.
So I'm saying building a single pane of glass, whether it's G Suite log information or information from things like Google Analytics or DoubleClick. There are a lot of use cases where customers are building a single pane of glass using BigQuery as that engine.
Awesome. Yep. And there's a lot of integrations between our different services. So this is a quick demo that I created that allowed you to be able to query sheets from your BigQuery engine. And we're going to walk through this real quick. So To access the console, you go ahead and go to console.cloud.google.com, and from there, you're able to actually go ahead and use BigQuery as your execution engine to query datasets within Sheets. So within here, you could see that you could pull a Google Drive file, which could be a sheet that's specified in your particular drive. And then from there, this particular demo, we're going to go ahead and analyze Black Friday market sales data within our sheet. So here you could see that there's things like the items that were sold, the cost of those particular items, as well as meaningful information for this particular spreadsheet. You could easily pull this into BigQuery and then run queries against it using standard SQL syntax. And what is great about this is you could basically use BigQuery to query very, very large data sets that might be larger than what's available in Sheets, and then move forwards from there and provide accessibility to this tool with your data analysts by just creating users and inviting them to your project.
So just as an end user, what it looks like to me is we're turbocharging Sheets to kind of extend it into tremendous scale and capabilities to get information in and out, whether it's leveraging Sheets as that data source or potentially exporting data from this petabyte scale engine.
Yep, exactly.
So one of the ways that we talked about earlier is leveraging Google APIs. How can our customers work with us without changing any of the underlying infrastructure? And one of the things that customers are working with us on is certainly from a BigQuery standpoint or data analytics, but the other area is machine learning. Machine learning is certainly a topic or an area that Google has been leveraging within a whole array of products. And if you take a look at all the products that we've got displayed, we've been incorporating machine learning capabilities and features that you might be familiar with. Things like data loss prevention in G Suite in the enterprise version. Things like in Photos where you can do categorize by somebody's face or the actual event that's happening. Things like in Translate, we're actually using advanced machine learning techniques to get better and better translation capabilities. A lot of these services or APIs are now available for you. And the nice part about it is you don't need to change where your infrastructure is. It can provide immediate value. One of the things we talk to customers on based on their journey is they might have moved to a secondary provider. They might be on-prem. They might not be ready to move. But if we can bring value now, it's an important part of that leveraging Google Tech and leveraging us for their technology or their innovation journey. So one of the great examples of to do a better correlation or matching for their recruitment efforts, what they're able to get is significant improvements in the click-throughs on the career sites based on the searches people are doing, as well as the quality of the applications. So we have a number of folks, whether it's a platform service provider or an enterprise customer who are just using something as simple as our Jobs API to help them innovate or help them do things differently. Another great example of innovation and leaning to customers to help them categorize and drive additional revenues is Hearst. Hearst has been leveraging our natural language processing API, which allows them to get better contextual awareness on what conversations are being had, what is of interest to their customers. So we've been enabling them via the natural language processing API, as well as leaning into engines like BigQuery. All in all, what it allows them to do is personalize user experiences and hopefully drive additional revenue in the long term. So it's certainly driving business value as well as innovation.
So hey, Vinny, in terms of across the publishing space, are there other machine learning APIs that you see customers often using for publishing?
Sure, that's a great question. A lot of customers, on the first use case are leveraging our Vision API or our Video API for doing dynamic meta tagging. So there are a lot of ways that we can certainly start again with something as simple as an API, and then often, as we progress with a customer, we might get into different discussions and even get into things like Apogee or even infrastructure play. So it's really about where can we help customers now and provide value immediately. So in terms of getting started with GCP, there are a lot of ways you can get started with us. We certainly are working with people in many areas of their cloud or technology journey for innovation or just learning. Analytics and big data, consolidating all the analytics so then you can potentially apply machine learning capabilities on top of it, or to just get that single pane of glass that we talked about from a advertising single pane of glass, or just some log files.
So in my opinion, the easiest way to get started with Google Cloud, if you're just trying to start to use it as a platform, is to have a hobby project. You have a blog, try to create that blog in Google Compute Engine and try to scale that out as you need as traffic grows. But across the board, it's very easy to get started.
And test dev, whether using us for data archiving, or even HPC workloads, which are very bursty in nature, the speed of performance, that global networking that we talked about for global scale, and also the fact that from a business value standpoint, you're achieving those usage-based or those automatic discounting constructs to truly make it cloudy or have cloud economics, as opposed to restricting people based on their ability to run things 24/7, which is really not a cloud model. So resources. So we'd love if everybody on this call reaches out and connects with us, and we can actually have discussions with everybody on the line right now, or everybody on the webcast. The best way to get in touch with your Google Cloud technical resources or cloud sales managers is to just go to cloud.google.com/contact, fill out a form, we'll reach you out. If you're already in touch with us, we'd love to have some deeper conversations with you. Another great resource, if you don't want to reach out to us, but you want to keep up to date with what's going on with the cloud platform and all the new innovations or the new regions, is to apply or register for our newsletter. A really great way to keep up to date with all of the new things, or even the new platforms or the use cases that were actually coming out from architectural recommendations. From a training standpoint, there are a lot of ways that customers can directly get training or learn about our platform. There's quick labs, which are interactive labs that will showcase how to do anything from standing up a VM all the way down to machine learning and leveraging BigQuery. There's on-demand training or online training courses with Coursera. That's more of a formalized training versus a lab. We also have formalized classroom training that you can actually sign up for if you go to cloud.google.com/training. But you can also reach out to your cloud account executive, and we can certainly work with you to tailor classes that might fit more into your needs. So we definitely want to work with you. The last thing that I actually want to talk about is from an advancement or engaging with Google, there's a rich ecosystem of partner capabilities. Whether we have systems integrators, large and small, global in scale, or regional and agile with specialties, there are a lot of ways that we've been growing our ecosystem, and you can work with Google partners directly, Google professional services. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to get a little bit more on how we can help you implement Google technology. So in terms of getting started today, we appreciate your time. We'll be back in under a minute once we have a chance to review some of the questions that you've been asking, hopefully over the last 30 minutes. We'll select a few questions, and we'll come back, and we'll hopefully give you some good answers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, welcome back. Again, Vinny Winzerkowski, Nick Pan. We've got 5 questions that were asked from the audience, and we're going to do our best to answer them. They're diverse in nature, but we'll kind of start from the bottom up instead of top down. And the first question is specifically on healthcare industry and building HIPAA compliant applications on top of GCP. So Google Cloud Storage is one of the services that's actually built to be HIPAA compliant. But in general, as an overview, absolutely, Google, you can build and deploy globally distributed or regionally distributed HIPAA compliant applications. In fact, we talked about our serverless capabilities, and recently, I think about a week ago, we announced that App Engine is now capable of providing HIPAA compliant applications. So you can do anything from store the content on Google Cloud Storage, you can build applications from the ground up using our virtual machines, or you can build full service applications on top of App Engine.
Yeah. And to take this a step further, for customers who are handling very sensitive data, we have APIs such as the Data Loss Prevention API, which is actually baked into G Suite as well. So being able to see or analyze a block of text and understanding if there's things in there that are sensitive in nature, things like social security numbers, things like user identities, or things that fall in the umbrella of PII.
Great. So the next question is about explain the low latency options when we have customers that operate in multiple regions. How to decide where to put and cost estimates. It's actually a pretty big question, and I think we'd have to dig into the specific use case, but let's talk about a couple scenarios. I think we covered a lot of them, and one of the benefits was our globally distributed network. But what we didn't really drill into is some of the services that we've built that take advantage of that network that can be built to potentially distribute your application. Things like our Google Cloud Storage. You have the option on top of GCP to build in a regional bucket if you so choose. But what you can also do is you can build object storage to do distribution within a continent. So you can actually have a distributed workload. I actually have one customer. They're a media company, and they do a lot of transcoding. And one of the things that they need to do is they need to select infrastructure in a very bursty nature. The fact that they're able to take advantage of our globally distributed object storage allows them to pull and spin up transcoding resources, potentially in the spot market, from any of our regions around the United States. That doesn't limit them from staying isolated within a region. Since they're talking about video files, once they transcode, they drop it in object storage. It's read after write consistency and read after list consistency on a continent basis. So again, distributed compute resources from a where do I grab the VM from, but the fact that we're actually distributing the object storage is really a value that if you look at other providers, in some cases you have to add tiers or implement additional layers of services in order to accomplish the same thing.
And I totally agree. This is a very dimensional question. So kind of like in the end of the presentation, you have a sales rep, you have a customer engineer. So if you're looking to architect multi-regional deployments on Google Cloud Platform, definitely use those channels of engagement with the Google Cloud team to ensure that you're doing this the right way. We have many white papers that walk over how to actually design this from the engineering standpoint, and also many services that Vinny alluded to that can make sure that we drive costs down and we design this in an optimal fashion for your team.
So the next question is, we talked about it's not about spinning disk. It's about helping customers innovate using Google Tech. And everybody online is using G Suite to innovate. You're going to hear in a little bit about how you can extend that and use Jamboard to create a better meeting experience. So we're going to talk about that. But in terms of not just spinning disk on top of us, I'd be remiss not to mention, especially based on the first question, within the healthcare space, Google is uniquely positioned to not only allow you to build your HIPAA compliant workloads in a region or distributed across a region, but gaining access to that HIPAA compliant data. Managing that end user experience and using Chrome as an operating system, whether it's a kiosk, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a Chromebook, to ensure that you have end-to-end HIPAA compliance and control. It's not just about what's in the back end or data center from a security, but it's how is that data being entered and managed on those endpoints. So we're uniquely positioned to do that, and we actually have quite a few use cases where in healthcare, Chrome and G Suite and a lot of other capabilities are marrying well to our backend infrastructure.
Yeah, on the ball. Yeah.
Great. So I guess the next question is about machine learning.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll let Nick kind of pick this one. Is how are we working with customers to implement and take advantage of machine learning, which Google certainly has been leaning into from TensorFlow and our ML platform. What are ways we're doing that?
So across the board, we believe that we have a leadership in machine learning. At Google Cloud, we have these pre-trained machine learning APIs, which allow you to easily do tasks such as use computer vision to extract meaningful information from images, or using our video intelligence API to be able to pull out metadata or meaningful information from videos that customers are trying to ingest into some sort of object storage. We also released a new service known as AutoML, which is riding off of the message from our CEO Sundar, which is to democratize AI for the general public. And what democratize AI means is the fact that there's not as many data scientists as there are developers in the world. So be able to empower our developers with these machine learning models that we've trained in-house at Google based off of running these data sets through the data sets that we have running our production systems, and empowering these developers with these black box APIs that they can then feed things into to be able to drive meaningful insights from. On the AutoML side, we're basically making it so that you could actually ingest and tweak these particular models to meet more so to your data sets and go through an easy GUI to be able to train these models to meet your tailored data sets. So to take this a step further, what that means is that the Vision API might be able to recognize that this image is a dog or a cat. But then if you were to train this on a more deeper data set, which is something that you as a customer bring to the table, you'd be able to actually recognize like the species of the dog. So maybe be able to say, this is not just a dog, but a golden retriever. Or this is not just a dog, it is a poodle. So across the board, doing a lot of things in the machine learning space.
So I hear customization without a lot of the overhead that often comes with customization. That's super exciting, and personally, I'm super jazzed about AutoML, just based on of machine learning and leaning in with Google. So, lots of customers and easy use cases to get started on. The last part is we talked about APIs, serverless technology, and infrastructure services. What are my options for a multi-vendor environment? So that's certainly in a cloud journey. People are saying they're all in one, but a lot of folks are talking about how can I use the right platform with the right workload? How can I take advantage of the cloud marketplace? A lot of vendors in it. So what are we doing there, Nick?
So I mean, in terms of Orbitera, we have a cloud marketplace where you can actually leverage the tool to be able to organize with different vendors and software. In terms of having a multi-vendor approach, we're actually able to peel off some of the services and tools to be able to leverage some of our higher level services. So something really key to drill in on is that we have a lot of services at Google Cloud, but it's a la carte. So you could use services as you need. So if you're trying to use something for data analytics, if you want a very powerful SQL execution engine, you could go ahead and just use BigQuery to analyze your data sets. If you're looking to just have like a website hosted within the cloud, you could choose to use Google Compute Engine to host your virtual machines. There's a lot of really interesting things you could do with Google Cloud Platform, and understanding how all these pieces fit into the overall picture. That's what really drives value for you as a user.
So what gets me excited about multi-vendor environment? I think with the proliferation of containers and Kubernetes as the default scheduler, I think the fact that it was part of Google's sponsorship of that program to actually bring that to bear is certainly something that's exciting to me, as well as TensorFlow and some of the other open source programs that will allow people to build in the multi-cloud. So we really appreciate everybody's time. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Cloud on Air. We're glad you joined us. We're running these webinars every Tuesday. Stay tuned and for the next one, which is going to be integrated or better meetings leveraging some of our Jamboard technology.
All right. Thank you so much.